Parliament has passed the 24-hour Economy Authority Bill, but critics insist this only creates a new bureaucracy without solving the core economic problem. In this edition of Hot Issues, I ask, was the scrutiny enough, or was Parliament simply clearing the path for a political flagship policy? I am Kemini Amano, and in this edition, I sit with the chairperson of the committee that deliberated on this policy to interrogate the processes leading up to the passing of the bill. We'll also look at proposed legal reforms, another bill that will be front and center this week. My next guest is Chair of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament, Mahama Saidu. It's Hot Issues here on TV3. My guest is Chairperson of Parliament's Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, the Honourable Shaibu Mahama. Thank you very much, Honourable, for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
Your committee did work on the 24-hour authority bill. Your critics say that this bill really, first, is not a framework. Secondly, is just a bureaucracy that is being created. Let's start from the beginning. What were the considerations in your report on the bill to Parliament?
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. So, bill making process generally will start from either the executive. Now we have what we call the private members bill, and so individuals can. If the bill is coming from the executive or the presidency, it would have gone through some thought-provoking stages. Indeed, if depending on the area or the sector that the bill is coming from, consultations would have been had on the area, the existing defect that that bill is supposed to cure, and what are the steps to be taken to operationalize the bill. And so many things have happened. The last 8 years saw policies being implemented without them being backed by law. And normally when you have a policy that is backed by law, it gives credibility to the institution. And so the program itself, from 1992 to 2022, or even up to date, we've seen our GDP growth move from $2 billion to over 80 billion as we speak today. Unfortunately, the corresponding employment rate hasn't been that. You would expect that once GDP is growing, it moves with employment rates and the rest of that. And so government saw that there are structural defects that disaligns with production GDP growth and then employment. And those are the structural things are the production systems that we have are not fully developed. The marketing and the supply chain systems are not fully developed. So you take a produce from the farm gate, before it gets to the consumer, there's a lot of cost that is built up in it. So the product ends up being expensive on the market. And then finally, the third pillar is to create the jobs. So once you sort out the production systems, the supply chain and marketing systems are sorted out, then ultimately it creates jobs. These jobs are either direct, indirect, or induced. So this is the basic principle on which the 24-hour economy is based. And then this whole thing is anchored on a private sector led. Government will only provide the viability funding gap. That is all about this. So private sector led, and then government provides a viability funding gap to situate it in. So this bill was just supposed to operationalize a policy that government is putting across to make it, a legal document or codified document.
You've explained to us what a 24-hour economy is and its importance to the Ghanaian people. But looking at the bill itself, how does it ensure that, right? You looked at the bill, we are creating an office, yes, it's the 24-hour economy office. But your critics say, look, whatever we are saying the bill, the authority should do based on this bill is already being done by the likes of the Finance Ministry, GIPC, maybe even free zones and the likes. So again, I want to understand where the committee's thought process was at the time that it thought that the bill was in good shape to come to the to plenary.
Well, so unfortunately, we are unable to just go through what the key considerations in terms of the key clauses that we have in the bill. But it generally develops. If you read what we call the short title and the long title of the bill, it gives you a fair sense of what the bill is about. And if you permit me, I just read for you. In bill making, we have what we call the short title and then the long title. The short title just describes what the act is. So, a 24-hour Economy Act, 2025. That is a short title. But the long title says, an act to establish 24-hour economy authority to implement 24-hour economy and accelerated export development program. Indeed, this is the crux and the thrust of this whole bill. So you wouldn't find it written in plain language. This is step 1, this is step 2 in the bill.
Right.
But a bill, anytime we make a bill, we make a provision that we call a provision that allows the minister by legislative instruments to come to Parliament to operationalize the act. Now, when an act is passed, an act of Parliament is passed, it's a skeletal document. It just gives the key points that needs to be done. But you have to operationalize it by bringing to Parliament what we call a legislative instrument. That's the LI or regulations.
Right.
So it is in the regulations that you find the details. So when we say export-driven or accelerated export, the legislative instrument will now detail what that is, who is to do what is the interface between the institution and other institutions that are supposed to coordinate with. So the bill itself will not tell you what those details are. It is the LI or the regulations that will follow this bill. And as I speak to you, because of the agency and the importance that government attaches to this, the regulations or the legislative instruments is being prepared
already
to get this operationalized.
I see. So when do you, in terms of timelines, when do you expect to see that LI in Parliament?
No, LI should be in Parliament before the end of the life of this session.
This session
of Parliament, yes.
Okay. Now let's stick with some of the issues that critics have raised about it, especially the issue of duplicity. Did the committee consider some of the things that have been outlined in the current bill as it is, now an act, whether or not the objectives of the authority were not duplicitous of government agencies that exist already?
Yes, so we did. And indeed, not just the committee, but government itself. And the framers of what we have here have looked at that. I told you, ab initio, that this is anchored on a private sector led. And so it's not the usual means of Agric, Ministry of Trade, doing their work. This is a concerted effort or a coordinated effort that will bring together the private sector to drive the process.
So which brings...
And so this is different from what the ministries and departments will do.
Which brings me to the question, why we need an authority for this? Because if we already have an environment that allows people to do that, for instance, we could go to the Agric Ministry and speak to the Agric Ministry about value addition, which the ministry is already doing. We can go to GIPC and talk about exports and how to make it better. Exim Bank is also there. We can do the same with Exim Bank. In your consultative process, why did we think that we need an authority?
Yeah, so it was agreeable that you will find in an accelerated export development program, you need various institutions to come together, but you needed an agency to coordinate those institutions. Indeed, the 24-hour economy authority bill serves as that coordinating point where agriculture, trade, tourism and the rest of that can all be coordinated as one. So the committee found it very, very interesting to say that if you leave it for only Ministry of Agriculture, they have a mandate already to do, but that does not include that accelerated bit to go look for private sector-led initiatives. But because of the coordination also, if you take production, you may start it from agriculture, then it moves into manufacturing and then to trade. There, you are just talking about 3 different ministries or institutions working together. You need this agency to coordinate those activities to make sure that the accelerated export development program is carried on seamlessly.
I see. So now that we have the authority, we operationalize this act, an authority is established, what happens to the office created at the presidency?
So you will note from what we call the transition provisions. So, and if you like, I read that one for you because we are doing bill and then act making.
Right.
So when you do a transitional provision, it tells you that there is an existing establishment that you are legislating to make a transition from where they are into the new thing. So the same office that existed, that is called the 24-hour Economy Secretariat, is what has been transformed to the 24-hour authority. And so all acts, contracts, whatever that were done or to be done by the secretariat are now subsumed in the authority that has been created. So that transitional provisions ropes in all activities.
Yeah, I mean, I get that clearly. I get that clearly from the Act. What I don't get is whether or not, because we now have a policy advisor to the president on that, who also takes care of the secretariat. We know that this document also makes provision on the selection of a CEO. Of course, it's not just for now; it's for the future as well. Yeah. And so I'm trying to put the issue of leadership together when the transition happens. It's not just taking over subsisting contracts that may already be signed by the current secretariat as we know it. So did that ever come up?
The personnel.
The personnel.
No, so that did not come up as far as the bill making is concerned. Okay. I mean, for the bill making, we have made provisions for a chief executive officer of the authority and other staff. And these are provided for in the Constitution. The president has the power to appoint a chief executive
That is left
officer.
For the executive to decide.
That is the executive. They will decide if the current coordinator of the program, is fit for purpose, why not? And so if the president chooses to appoint a CEO different from the current coordinator, that's a prerogative of the president. So, but it is not within our mandate. We have provided for it. Remember, this act will transcend governments. And so a CEO is to be appointed. If the president chooses to appoint the current coordinator as the CEO, that is the prerogative of the president. We leave that for the president. We couldn't legislate on who becomes the CEO.
Well, I understand in terms of naming names, right? But, in taking care of the previous office, I was, hoping to see how the new act hopes to absorb that completely, not just the contracts. Right. But let's move away from that, because when we come to plenary, we hear the minority a lot. There are concerns about the bill as it is. I've named some already. My question is why some of those concerns are not reflected in the committee's report. What really happened at the committee stage?
Well, so minority views, majority views are all taken into account when we go to committee. Okay. Remember, the committee is composed of both majority and minority, depending on the numbers. And so parliamentary committees are looking at what ratio do you have minority and majority. I think currently it's 3:1. And so if you have a 17-member committee, you will see 13 majority members there. But you still have, quite sizable number of minority there. And everybody's view, was taken at the committee level.
Their concerns reflect in the committee's report on the bill?
Absolutely. So, and the committee report is signed by both the minority and then the majority. But
this committee report is an endorsement of the bill which has now passed into an act.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But the minority in plenary are very much concerned that this is not good. This bill that has been passed is not a good policy document, but I don't see that in that endorsement that the committee level gave. So
once you agree, and you are putting your report together, what we do at committee level is to pick the bill clause by clause. So clause 1. It is read. Tell us what your views are on it. So minority, majority, we all debate. Sometimes we spend 1 hour just debating and asking what we need to correct or amend in a particular clause. And so there's been great consultation. Minority has been present throughout as far as the deliberations of this 24-hour economy bill is concerned. And they've inputted into the various clauses that we have today. And that's what the report reflects, the views of both the majority and then the minority. And so concerns can still be raised. I mean, you'll find us agreeing on a clause, and at committee, then when we get to the plenary, it's a different thing altogether. Sometimes the same people who will argue and we all agree by consensus that, yes, let's leave this clause this way. We get back to plenary, and then that same clause is raised, and we can debate it for another 1 or 2 hours. And so those you see, I mean, making comments on the particular bill does not mean that they did not agree to the report that was presented. So it's a committee's report that is looked at by both majority and minority and submitted at plenary. Remember, we also debate the report. So that's why the second reading is all about the presentation of the report, and then it's subject to debate. And so members will have the opportunity to read the report, debate it before the consideration, the clause-by-clause consideration.
What do you say to critics who say that this bill was rushed? It's not gone through the fire to be where it is today?
No, it wasn't rushed. And I tell you, per the constitutional arrangement, this bill was advertised. It was gazetted. That's what the Constitution says. And we invited stakeholders, CSOs, the ministries, and other institutions to participate. First, the purpose of gazetting it is to allow people to send in memoranda. And so we've received quite a bit of memoranda from people. And when you sign a memorandum, you will indicate which clause you think you need a change in. And that concern is normally subjected to debate at the committee level. And so we've done a lot of consultations. Remember, the Secretariat has been there for nearly a year today. And so many things have gone under the bridge, and consultations have been had. People have, fed into the bill. And so this is a very rich bill. It has taken into account almost all concerns raised by civil society organizations who are very critical of the initial comments that you raised, that there are existing ministries here and there. But they appreciate the coordinating role that the 24-hour economy will play.
But when you compare this policy document, the bill, right? When you compare the bill to the legal reform bill, for instance, which we'll talk about a little later, when I read that, I can understand the legal framework. I see the skeleton behind those reforms.
Yep.
I just don't see that when I look at the 24-hour authority bill. Hence my question: do you think this is a good document?
It's absolutely brilliant. You see, the initial comments that I made by taking you down memory lane, that if you see the growth of the economy from 1992 to date, we've moved from a 2 billion economy to almost an 80 billion economy. What we expected was a corresponding increase. So there must be a deliberate effort. And the reasons we are not getting that corresponding increase in labor and then in jobs is because there are production bottlenecks. The systems are not working enough. So we need to develop the production systems, develop the supply chain and marketing systems. And ultimately, this will create the needed jobs.
Right.
And so it's a well thought out program. You would want to compare it to the legal reform bill, but they are different.
But you see what I'm saying, right?
No.
You sat on both documents,
Yes.
and you can tell the legal framework talks about all the way to financing, all the way to the number of years involved and the likes. But this document, the authority bill, it only establishes an authority. For a very novel thing we want to do, I perhaps expected a little bit more. I'm wondering why the committee didn't expect a bit more.
No, the committee knew that there will be regulations that will follow this.
Regulations that are mostly left to the CEO and board once they are appointed.
No, generally, the same executive will come out with the regulations. The bill is coming through. It's not the private members, but it's coming through the executive. So the same executive and the same consultations that went into this will come out with the regulations. The regulations will spell in detail what we want to do under accelerated export development. It will spell in detail how to develop the production systems that we think are obsolete. And it will spell in detail what the supply chain and the marketing systems that needs to be done to make effectiveness of the production system. And so you won't find that in this act. You'll find the details in the regulations.
We'll wait for the regulations,
Yes.
but just a few things in this one. Financial provisions. Funds of the authority include monies approved by Parliament, loans, IGF, returns on investment, donations, gifts, and grants. I am particularly interested in IGF, donations, gifts, and grants. Let's start off with IGF. What was the explanation given to you on IGF, on how the authority will be raising funds?
So, you see, funds generally will cover a lot of things. And so, because it's an authority, and if you look at it says that is established by this act, the 24-hour economy authority bill as a body corporate. You see, once we establish it as a body corporate, it has a power to borrow. It has a power to enter into contracts. It has a power to do other businesses. And so it is after the establishment that you can think of what the activities are and what internally generated funds can be out of those activities. And so until the details are set out, but we make the law and make provisions for it. They may not be, but we don't want to close the sources of funding for an institution. So we make it very open so that if there's a need to generate funds internally, they have to do it. If there's a need to borrow, they go. If there's a need to raise funds from any other place. So that is a lawmaking process, and it's standard for all laws that we do, so that you don't restrict the institution to a particular way of raising funds. So that's why the internally generated funds, because it's a body corporate, it can do activities. And once you do activities, you can generate funds.
But I hear what you're saying, but someone could easily construe that to mean that, this was just checking, or perhaps the committee was just checking its compliance to legal matters or to the Constitution, but not properly interrogated.
We did. We did the interrogation very well. We think that because it's a corporate body, or it will do its activities. And once you do activities, you generate funds.
I want to take you back to the issue of regulations. When I said that, it would appear that that will be left to the CEO and the board. I want some clarity on this, right? So regulations 20, miscellaneous provisions, in case you want to go there,
sure.
right? The minister designated by the president and the subsection, and this minister, based on the act, just for the purpose of my viewers, will have oversight on the authority if the president chooses that they'll go that route. So the minister designated by the president and the subsection 2 of section 12 may, on the advice of the board, by legislative instruments, make regulations generally for the effective implementation of this act without limiting subsection. The regulations may provide the design, the procedure, the scheme for the award of exemptions and incentives, the administrative penalties to be imposed, which are some of the things that you've talked about. But the process, again, will be very dependent on the advice of the board.
Yes, of course. And but regulations generally will not emanate from the board. Okay, regulations generally will come from the executive, or from the institution that is initiating the bill or the act. Okay, so, but of course, once the board is in place, if you look at the functions of the board, they will have to also input into it. And so the regulations that will come will spell out clearly the design, the duration, the content, and then the development, implementation of it. That's why I told you the details will be in the regulations.
The details will be...
And as normally, we will specify and even give a timeline for the minister to bring the regulations. We have been quite open on this one. We did not specify. But because of the agency of this, in many laws that we have, since 2017, we have specified that the minister, by legislative instrument, within a certain period, and normally we say within 12 months of coming into force of this bill, or the act should come to Parliament with the regulations. This, we did not put that timeline because they were all ready to bring us the regulations.
I see, which you say it's being worked on
it's being worked on. And so
at this time.
We will have the regulations sorted out as quickly as possible.
I want us to talk about the legal reforms to come. That also is another very contentious issue. We've seen debate on it in the week past, and I want to understand the thought process when some of the the committee wrote its report on this. There are those who are concerned about the quality of legal education once this comes into force. The committee itself, reading your report, you made considerations on that, but what were those considerations you made? Why did you still think that it would not affect the quality?
Okay, so I'm sure you know the history of all these things, where the law school now has been turned into a bottle. People go in there and then everybody now struggling to come out of it. And so many years ago, you would find that people walked straight from faculty into the law school. I mean, we walked straight from faculty into the law school. But with time, the numbers kept growing. Many universities, I mean, put on law faculties.
Right.
And then, so once the numbers were growing, the 1962 Act that established the Ghana Law School, I mean, in terms of content and the absorption capacity of the law school could not contain that. And so the law school had to come out with various means, entrance examination, interview, and the rest of that. I remember in 2018, when they brought the LI to Parliament, we had to delay the interview bit of it because we thought it wasn't a fair way of assessing people. And so, but we left the exam. Long and short, you have one institution that is, I mean, taking less than sometimes 200-300 people at a time. And when people talk about quality and the number of lawyers in the system, sometimes it's so nauseating. You see, the average, from the UN point of view, it's about 780 persons to one lawyer. Today we have.
So there aren't too many lawyers in this country.
We have 7,900 persons to one lawyer in Ghana here, and yet we claim we're overproducing lawyers. Indeed, we actually need more lawyers in this country. Every district assembly is supposed to have a lawyer. When we talk about procurement breaches and the rest of that, it's because there are no lawyers guiding them as to what to do. And if you don't get it from the grassroots, every ministry have to have a lawyer, every district assembly, every RCC, and the rest of that. Indeed, we are short of lawyers. That's the starting point. Now, these reforms generally are very sweeping. What we are saying is that we are doing away with the Ghana Law School, so to speak. And then we are going to accredit other faculties and universities to run the same program that the Ghana Law School is running. So what is it about quality people are talking about? You mean the people at the University of Ghana, Faculty of Law, cannot train lawyers, cannot train students to become lawyers?
One of the concerns raised is the accreditation process, which is over a 5-year period. You have the pre-accreditation, which will be used for 2 years. Then you have a temporary one as well before the full accreditation itself. People are concerned that there won't be proper checks and balances on institutions that apply within that 2-year period. And then what happens if an institution does not get the full accreditation at the end of that 5-year period?
There's a window, actually. And we have what we call the appeals, if you go through the bill. Okay, so I think the initial thing is not to accredit all schools or all institutions that apply. The initial thing, which we want to start this year, is to accredit a few institutions, perhaps 4 or 5 or whatever. And these are already existing institutions that already train lawyers anyway. So if you take the Faculty of Law at the University of Ghana, I mean, what other facilities do we need to have at the University of Ghana? Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Faculty of Law, University of Cape Coast Faculty of Law. So already we have a sense of which institutions are already prepared for this program, and then we can start with those ones. There's accreditation criteria that we have outlined in the law, and also here regulations will come after this law is passed, and that the regulations will detail the act itself. You will not find the details in there when we say accreditation criteria. It will just mention it quite, skeletal.
Yep.
But the regulations will go in there to detail. So, for
The
instance,
requirements.
the teaching personnel, the qualification that they need to have, then the library. Because for law school, library is very key. And so those requirements are quite detailed. And any institution, they're so basic that if you don't have it as an institution, then you are not fit to train lawyers. So at the end of the day, when these faculties train, they will now have what we call the central exam. So University of Ghana, Ghana Law School, by the way, Ghana Law School will still remain and train, but will not be the sole institution that will train. So once they all train, you are now given a certificate at that level. That's a qualifying certificate. Then that qualifies you to come and write the general bar exam.
I see. Which will now be called
central exam.
All right.
Yes.
I see. So we talked about the School of Law still existing. The legal council will still exist.
Yeah, General Legal Council will still be there. It's a creation of the Constitution.
But the new law itself also would have its own law practice council as well.
Yes. So
how will the two work hand in hand?
So the roles are now separate.
Okay.
General Legal Council will have its role. General Legal Council was also overseeing the education bit, legal education. So now this legal education will be hived off to the council that will be created by the bill. The bill seeks to create a council that will take care of legal education. And so the legal education bit will be hived off from the General Legal Council mandate. Okay. It will still have its mandate, dealing with lawyers. So after you now come out as a lawyer, then you are in the hands of the General Legal Council.
Right.
And then, but before that, once you are under training, you'll be under the council that will be established by this bill.
I see. While we're on the subject of quality, another concern raised is the review of the curricula from annual to 5 years.
Yep.
Why? What's the thought process behind that?
Consultations were had, and we're privileged to have all the heads of the faculties of law in almost all the institutions that we have in Ghana here. Their president, Professor Raymond Aturuka, led the discussion. And so they inputted this very, very well. One of the key things that we moved, the curriculum is not just an annual thing. You develop a curriculum, you assess a curriculum when you pass out students, and then you study them from the market. So the curriculum you have developed to pass these students, are they working or implementing it in the market? So the reason we gave that space is that if you take 2-3 years to train a student, you need another year to study, to find out whether the output that you have produced fits into the curriculum that developed the person. And so they gave us a reason that, look, if you say review and change curriculum within 2 years, who are you going to assess to be able to tell whether the product of that curriculum is doing well or not? And so we saw reasoning behind it. So if you take 2 years...
I see your reason also, but I also don't see what was wrong with the current annual reviews.
Well, so again, reviews also take quite a number of months to do. And so they also explained to us that if you say review, the word may be just so simple, but it takes preparations. Sometimes it takes almost 6 to 7 months to prepare for review. The number of things that you need to put in place before you move for review. And so we saw reason why they said we should move it from 2 years to up to 3 or 4 years. I don't know why the actual number that we changed on the
5
on the bill, or to 5 years.
5 years.
Yes.
I see.
And so we agreed with them on that. Yeah.
I see. And so when students now have to write the National Bar examination, there will be a committee that takes care of that.
Yes.
What are the checks and balances to ensure that these exams are done and done well, fairly, and, you know?
So those all will be spelled out in the regulations and then the manuals that will be produced.
But did the committee raise those questions?
Yes, we raise those questions. I mean, especially where, like we do in ACCA, ICA Ghana. I mean, you attend your classes wherever, but you come to write the general exam. If you pass, you qualify as a chartered accountant. And so in most jurisdictions, this is what happens. You write if you go to America, you do the same thing. You stay there at the inns, and then you come to write the bar exam. If you qualify or you pass, then you are called to the bar. And so those...
So as far as the committee is concerned, there will be, you have been assured of quality control.
Absolutely.
As far as the, you know...
I mean, devoid of human interface. I mean, we saw the complaints that were raised with this entrance examination.
Right.
In fact, one of the reasons why we just thought that we should get this off our head, entrance examination, the manner and nature of the whole thing, the brouhaha that happened. Some people didn't write the entrance examination, yet they found their names on the... I mean, a whole lot. We had complaints, petitions in Parliament, writing through. So now once you have a central board, pass your exam at the faculty, come and write a central exam. The law school is still there to register people. You can write 50 times. Just like you qualify for other professionals. So the law school, as it stands currently, will be the sole institution to reorganize receipt examinations for students who have not passed the central exam.
I see. And one of the things I read from the recommendations during your consultative process is the length of the LLBs. How did that feature in your report to Parliament? Was it taken out as it was recommended?
Yeah, so the heads of the law faculty, the deans of the law faculty, they explained it to us. A degree awarding institution will normally define how many credit hours. Okay, so what was important is there are some basic core subjects that must be taught. And so once you're a faculty, then those basic core subjects, you must teach them and meet the credit hour that is required for a degree. And so the rules will provide for that. And the rules will spell out the core subject that must be taught. There are additional ones that are optional just to make up the credit hours. So some institutions can choose what they want to add on. Some can take, what's it called? If you take intellectual property law, IT law, we are moving into a world where IT is taking over everything. And so once you choose to add, let the credit hours meet the requirement for the award of a degree.
I see. So explain to me what the new structure will be when the law comes into existence.
Yeah.
Because we've mentioned a few number of things for my understanding and the understanding of my viewers. What would the ecosystem for legal education or lawyering look like?
Okay. So, like I mentioned earlier, sweeping reforms, and those reforms start from next week. I am confident that we'll pass the law by Friday of next week. Once that is done, the bill becomes an act of parliament and is assented to by His Excellency the President. Then it becomes a law. Now, once that is done, effectively, Ghana Law School ceases
to be the sole.
And then the processes of identifying an accreditation is already ongoing. And as I speak, we have 4 institutions that are already training lawyers, the same lecturers who teach at the law school over there. Okay, so you will now apply to go and do the professional law course in this accredited
any of these schools.
Institutions. So we have made provisions for the backlog of LLB students. I mean, indeed, they will be the first to even apply because they already have the degree. Those LLB students who have been queuing every year to write the entrance exams to Makola, and they've been restricted into the bottle, now have the opportunity of going to Kumasi, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Legon, here or any other institutions
for
that
a
will be
year.
accredited. Absolutely. So it will depend on, it's a mix of both practical and indeed what this bill seeks to do is to make the professional training more practical than the theoretical aspects. Okay, so it's a mix of both the theory and then the practice. And every faculty must make the provision for that.
Right. So I mean, if we're
So
drawing
you
an
apply, so if we are moving on now, once the bill is passed, I mean, applications will be, I mean, forms will be open.
Right.
For LLB students
So
to
wait,
apply.
hold on, just a moment. If we're drawing an organogram, the first stage will now be the accredited institutions that can now give professional lawyering
Absolutely,
education, right?
yeah.
And then above that will be which institution, based on this bill?
Based on this bill? No, they will just be, once you are accredited.
Okay.
Yes, so you by law is supposed to train professional lawyers to come and sit in for the national exams.
The national exams, which is then conducted by the committee?
Yes.
Okay.
By the council, created by the law.
The law?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's an exam committee that is created by the council that is established under the law. So the act is established by this act, a council that is in charge of A, B, C, D. Then from that council committee, the examination body, which is called the examination committee, is created, and they will be in charge of organizing the national bar examination. So by the faculties will train you, certificate you to come and write that exam. So if you don't pass at the faculty, you cannot come and write the exam. So you must be issued with a certificate that qualifies you to come and write the national exam.
Right.
So you can be at the faculty for 5 years. If you don't pass that exam, you cannot come and write the national bar exam.
Anyway, 5 years is quite specific.
No, I mean, there are people who spend 10 years at the law school anyway, so that's fine.
At some point, you shouldn't be able to write after that. But let's move on to some more serious matters, right? One of those matters will be the CRC report, the Constitution Review Committee report. Last year, when it came out, the president was, of course, enthused by it. He had said that it be made public for the Ghanaian people to know. And you know, I want to find out from you whether there are expectations of it coming to Parliament anytime soon. Yeah.
So, I mean, first of all, I'm sure Ghanaians are all expectant as far as the CRC report is concerned. But let's take note that because the CRC was not a commission,
right?
They have not issued a white paper. So normally, if it's a commission, they will issue a white paper per the constitutional provisions. So what they have issued is a report to the president. And so this report is going through the administrative process and then the drafting of the various amendment bills. And so once these are drafted, they will be passed to the Council of State and then to Parliament. So for Parliament, we are waiting for us. At the moment, we are not seized with the matter. And so once all I know is that the administrative work is ongoing for the draft bills to be sorted out. It also depends on the type of, I mean, clauses that are affected or the type of, what's it called? The constitutional provisions that are affected. And so we have entrenched provisions in the Constitution and then the non-entrenched provisions. So there may be referendum of a sort if the draft provisions that are being done affect entrenched provisions of the Constitution. And those that are not may just be an act of Parliament that those drafts will affect. So as a Parliament, we are expecting that to come through. My committee will be seized with those matters, and then I'm sure Mr. Speaker, acting upon the constitutional provisions will refer that to the Constitution.
Anything caught your attention yet?
Well, so when one of them has to do with, of course, the election of MMDCs, and I think both parties are all addendum on that. What we are not very clear about is whether it should be partisan or not. And so if you are choosing a candidate, should it to stand for elections at the MMDA level, should the person be coming from a political party or not? But we're all clear that MMDA should be elected. So that is on the front burner. We also looked at members of parliament not being MPs, not being
ministers of
ministers.
state. Yeah.
So that is also critical.
Why?
Well, so it has its pros and cons. I mean, and this morning I was just discussing that with the roads minister. We're looking at the pros and cons of it. I mean, it will make parliament very effective, you see. I can tell you, I mean, some people go into parliament because they want ministerial position, but not because of the basic parliamentary work. I mean, this may just be, I mean, my thinking, but I think that some people, once you get into parliament and you know that this is the reason you're coming to do parliamentary work, three key principles in parliament, I mean, oversight, representation, and then legislation. So if you are doing this and you now want to add an executive role in it, it will make parliament more effective if we say that come and do parliamentary work. Do not go and mix with the executive. Again, it gives that separation of powers principle work well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, executive, parliament, and judiciary. Today you have MPs who will go and take decisions at executive level and come, and then we have to take a vote or implement it in parliament. I mean, you can see the clear bias in terms of the mix. And so that is also something that caught the attention of Parliament.
Before we go, just a couple of things that caught my attention too, as far as Parliament is concerned. How to choose a leader in Parliament. They no longer want the involvement of the political parties. There should be a whole House affair. The people who are concerned in the House should do the voting. What do you think about that?
Well, so in the first place, we are in Parliament on the ticket of the party. Indeed, the chairman of the party signed our forms and forwarded same to the Electoral Commission. So there's no MP who sits in Parliament there who's not sponsored by a political party. So how can you make your leadership, choose your leadership without the involvement of the political party? So unless we change that, okay. So I still think that the party should have a say.
In other words, you don't think that recommendation is a good one?
Well, it is, but it can be looked at from. I still just think that I mean the party should have a say, so long as they sponsor us to Parliament. I mean,
the party should have a say.
You will have a form that is filled and signed by the chairman of the party, that is sent to the Electoral Commission. So it's a party that is sponsoring you. Otherwise, if you're an independent candidate, nobody will come and ask you anything. So, but once you belong to a party, I think the party should have a say in who your leadership is. I don't know
so
the extent of involvement, but
right.
No, I don't think it should be elective.
Because that's a proposal, that it should be an elective process.
Consensus. I think it should be by consensus. Yeah, I mean, elective process of leadership in Parliament may also just, I mean, it will just turn into something different. I think it should be consensus. It should be based on consensus, and then the political party should be involved in this. Yeah.
I see. The last thing, just before we go, will be the compulsory town hall style engagement MPs. That's the recommendation that MPs should have with their constituents to deepen participatory democracy. Your thoughts on that? Yes,
I think that open governance is one of the biggest things Ghana has signed up to internationally. I mean, I came from an open government conference a few months ago. And so it deepens democracy generally without even legislating it. I think that once you are a representative of the people, I mean, that town hall meeting must be had.
Yeah, but you don't do it. The MPs don't do it. Why do we need a legislation to force you to engage with your constituents?
MPs do it. Anytime we move.
They organize town hall style?
Yes, I don't know how you describe it. But for those of us who represent rural communities, when you visit your communities, you organize town hall. They tell you what the issues are. You tell them what you have done up to date, what government is doing, and then the rest of that. So those town halls, depend on how you define it. We do it anyway. But if you want to legislate it, it takes away, I mean, the core mandate of the MP, like I said, there are three: representation, legislation, and oversight. So that representation means that you must be accountable to the people. And we do it anyway. If you want to codify it, that's a different thing altogether. But already the mandate is that you have to have those town hall meetings.
Maybe the codification is for those who don't do it. Enough.
But the electorate will show you the exit
because
if you don't.
I mean, when there is a bill to be discussed in Parliament, how many of you go back to your constituents, organize opinions from what your constituents think about it and bring it back on that bill, particularly if it has direct impact on, the everyday Ghanaian?
Yeah, so on the contrary, some of us, I mean, and I'm sure many MPs would have done this. Once we go back on research to meet our constituents, one of the key things is what bills that we have looked at and whether they affect directly the people or not. So most of the time we take our time to explain to them. LGBTQ was very topical at the time. And so once you go, they're asking you, what is Parliament doing about this? Yeah. And most of those bills, even they know it before you get there.
But it's usually in jest. Again, from the explanation, it's usually in jest. There is no routine that this is what we do all the time. If someone asks, then you have a response, but not I have come. Let's gather and discuss.
But there's no
Which
guarantee.
is what the CRC reports want to
Well, there's no
correct.
guarantee that if you legislate it, because if it represents, I have more than 60 communities, and so if it represents such a constituency, what you say at one point to a community will be different from what you say at the other side. Legislating it, in my view, will not show that commitment.
I see.
But it's still good. If it's there, why not?
Well, because you mentioned the anti-LGBTQ bill, just a quick one on that one. Is it on the, did it come to the...
Yeah, so remember it's
committee at all?
It's a private members bill. And so it went off with the life of the last parliament. Okay. So they are yet to reintroduce it. Once it was not accented to by the president. Remember, it got to the desk of the president, and it was sent back to sender. I mean, unconstitutionally, though. And so we are expecting. I mean, our side, we are very ready to pass that bill. And Mr. Speaker has indicated clearly that he's waiting for that bill to come and we'll get it done.
We can't debate that any further, unfortunately. We have to go. But thank you so much for coming. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you so much.
This is Hot Issues. I'm grateful for your company. My guest has been the chairperson of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament, Shaibu Mahama. He's also MP for Daboya, Magnerugu.
Mankarigu.
Mankarigu. It's a tough one, but thanks for the correction. Mankarigu MP. I'll see you same time next week. Bye-bye.